this video begins, I just want to point out the purpose of the video. The purpose of this video, just so that it doesn't stand out as just another video about a mentally handicapped progressive giving their opinions about how the world or the United States needs to be run. Before I play this video about this, either this person is very stupid or is just pretending to be stupid to support her political agenda. This video, I believe, leads to a bigger topic about who the fuck is financing this shit. Why are these people saying these obviously stupid fucking things for the past 4 years? So, I'm going to be having a video summarizing why this entire Russia collusion, Russia hack was absolute bullshit based off of the John Podesta email hack, which no one talks about, but that has basically been the origin of the 4 years of bullshit that the progressives have been spewing out in an ad nauseum fashion so that they can make sure that whatever happens, whether there is a nuclear holocaust or there is an extreme famine worldwide, the Democrats care about one thing. They need to get this outsider, this non-politician, Donald Trump. They need to get this non-politician out of office because he's not a politician. Politicians typically accept bribes from people like Jeffrey Epstein and people who are connected to him. Now, I understand that Donald Trump had was an acquaintance of Jeffrey Epstein, but basically every high-profile figure in the United States in the 1990s was also acquainted with Jeffrey Epstein. And it's only when you dig deeper into this rabbit hole that you find out who spent the most time with Jeffrey Epstein. People like Prince Andrew, people like Bill Clinton. So, it's a very, very deep rabbit hole. But I think before I go into this rabbit hole, that I should share this video to point out the absolute stupidity that these fucking retards are spewing out of their mouths. And they are spewing this bullshit out of their mouths, hoping that the ignorance of the people who have no experience in cybersecurity or any of these other things that were basically the flagship causes of the Orange Man getting elected, right? Because these progressive retards believe that the Orange Man is the president simply because of Russian hackers. That's right. So, all those fucking people that paid millions of dollars in campaign financing, they are retarded. They need to get up to speed with the Russians, because the Russians have some kind of fucking advanced Decepticon level sci-fi shit that blows every multi-million dollar campaign financing expedition to be completely worthless. As of right now, all of the campaign managers in the United States are jack shit. They are worth nothing compared to what a select group of so-called Russian hackers who apparently hacked the election the same way the Decepticons were able to so easily hack into the entire defense network of the Department of Defense. So this is a scene from the 2007 movie Transformers. I'm sure many of you have heard of it.
Sarah. Hey, Sarah, if you can hear me, I'll be home soon.
Now, to be completely honest, this is probably the most accurate representation of a modern warfare that I've ever seen in a film, because a conventional warfare in the 21st century is fought with nuclear weapons. However, if you're fighting with some kind of an alien force, then that kind of changes. certain parameters in the warfare in your battle plan. So it's pretty clear the way this movie presents it, the alien invaders are far superior to the humans, technologically speaking. And this movie, I believe, pretty accurately represents how a super powerful hack, some super powerful brute force attack, only capable of being infiltrated by the most powerful computers in the world that can brute force attack these types of systems to gain access to everything on the server. You need some kind of alien technology to do what the Russians have apparently done during the 2016 election, and that's why I'm showing this scene from Transformers, because this is basically the only evidence that I have to work with. This is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with some kind of alien tech that we have never seen before. And, I mean, at least that's what I believe that we're dealing with, because no information about this hack was ever released. And, I'll explain to you exactly that, how the hack was most likely infiltrated. And this is the exact same way that the Twitter attack was executed. I mean, this is, I know that for the layman, for the average person who doesn't do what I do for a living, they don't really know what's going on. They just hear that the election was hacked by the Russians, but they don't have time to go into the details. They can't pick up programming and DevOps as a profession. They don't have time for that shit. So it's only left to people like me and people in the government who have the obligation to explain to everybody exactly what took place. The Hillary Clinton campaign was hacked. That is true. But hacked is a very broad term. Saying that someone was hacked is no different than saying that someone was attacked. Because if you say that your friend was attacked yesterday and that you can't show up to work, you gotta explain to your boss, how exactly was your friend attacked? Was he stabbed? Was he shot? You gotta explain the specifics. And these specifics are completely and utterly non-existent in the Russia hack of the 2016 election. The only single shred of evidence that has ever been uncovered from the 2016 election hack was from Guccifer 2.0, the WikiLeaks document that had dumped the entire Podesta email server. That is the only lead that I have to go off of, and that is the only piece of evidence that I have to go off of that would demonstrate that there was some kind of a hack, in quotes, there was some kind of a attack on our American election. However, the details of this attack are as vague as humanly imaginable. We just know that John Podesta's email server was hacked, but we don't know the details. We don't know how it was hacked. We only know rumors that say, there is one rumor that is unconfirmed that John Podesta's password on his email server was password with a ampersand in the at character to replace the A in password. So it's P at SSWORD. And no one really knows about this, and no one has really covered this in the mainstream press.
Massive effort had to take
Why
place.
didn't the DNC make their computers a little more secure?
Well,
like
you know, the
RNC?
DNC is a private entity like the RNC.
So the RNC was smart enough to take action.
No.
That's what I'm hearing, Malcolm.
Bullshit. Let me explain something very, very clear. I worked in NSA.
Did you read
if
that?
we want to dedicate the resources to you, we will get into your system. The Russians just decided they were working for you.
How do you know that?
They
How
want
do you
you
know
to-
that?
answer.
How do you know that?
They didn't go anywhere. They were working for you.
They work for you.
You, the party of Ronald Reagan. Tear down the wall. The big enemy, Russia. Now they're your friend.
No, best
Party over country.
Well, that's all the
Thank you
more
very
reason they
much.
should have sort of.
And I think I know why no one knows about this and why the mainstream press haven't covered this is because they don't want you to know. A large majority of the mainstream press, such as ABC is owned by Disney, and Disney makes billions of dollars in ticket sales in China every decade. Like, if you take the last 10 years of ticket sales that Disney has made in China, it is monumental. And if you look at the way that Chinese influence has impacted how horrible films have been in the last, let's say, 8 to 9 years, you can really see a difference. I mean, all of the scenes that have had to be cut out of American films in order to please our communist overlords so that we could sell our movies in their shithole country. So that's what this video is about. This video is primarily about a really stupid person spewing bullshit that is completely meaningless. And if anyone in the comments section could please elaborate to me what exactly her point was, and if someone could please review my replies to all of her comments during this hearing, I would really like to hear that, because this stuff is just fascinating to me. Just that people are so retarded in public because they have to be retarded in public, because if they don't act retarded in public, they're going to lose their jobs. And that's why this shit fascinates me. And that's why I made this video, because I feel like I am covering up an individual who is on purpose acting like a fucking idiot, and is only acting like an idiot because someone's paying her. Someone above her is paying her money. This is her livelihood. This is where her salary comes from. So that's where this video basically comes from, and hope you find it interesting.
And the mayor of Portland has asked that the federal troops leave because the reaction has actually been in reverse proportion. People are showing up because the troops are there. And I'd like.
Okay, so she's established that the reason for the protest is Trump's federal agents are causing the violence, because by showing up at such and such city, you're going to make the people start destroying property. So your presence is the cause of the violence, basically, and has nothing to do with the crazed individuals who are damaging property. No, they're not responsible, because I guess they don't have free will. I know that most progressives don't believe in free will.
But I have a more biologically determinate view of free will. Observationally speaking, I think that we can determine different organisms' free will based on the cognitive capacity that they have. So for example, a bacterium is going to have less free will than a lizard is going to have less free will than a chimpanzee, and then going all the way up to humans who have less free will. And we can also determine different areas of our bodies, specifically our brains, that are going to determine the capacity for reasoning and the capacity to make rational decisions. People with damage to their prefrontal cortex are going to make more impulsive decisions. So with that very observationally sound view of free will and sort of a biologically deterministic, from a biologically deterministic standpoint.
So right out of the gate, she's saying that these protests the destruction is being caused by the National Guard's presence, or whatever federal agents or whoever's over there.
To say that so many of them, I would say most of them, are non-violent.
got here, and that too is also damaged. No rhyme or reason why this was targeted, but we understand that this belongs to the Rihanna apartments. Just I'd say about 6 blocks away also, the Cannon restaurant. We stopped by there, just talked to the owner about half an hour ago. The Cannon restaurant was also hit. The owner was standing out front trying to...
We've all heard about the wall of moms, who show up to make sure that people are safe. And here's what they say. They say they've been tear gassed night after night, left vomiting, that they've been shot at with rubber beanbags, pepper spray. So this brutality has created even more demonstrators. I'd just like to ask you this. When the president issued his executive order, they indicated your department should prioritize investigations. Has your department started any investigations pursuant to the executive order that the president issued?
Which executive order, Congresswoman?
The executive order that asked for the deployment of troops to protect the monuments and the federal facilities.
Yes,
on June 26th.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was troops, but we have initiated investigations. Yes, we've made arrests of people who have been rioting and taken down statues. But I think your characterization of Portland is completely false.
I would like to, we can get into that, but I'd like to ask you a question about surveillance, if I may. We've heard reports that cell site stimulators known as stingrays or dirt boxes are being used to collect phone call location and even content of phone calls. Drones are being used.
Yeah, phone calls. You know, when you get arrested by the police, the AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile and whoever, they will just hand over all text messages straight to the police. Like, there is no surveillance, basically. There's basically no need to do that whatsoever for what she's just describing. However, at the same time, it might be possible that what she's explaining is basically a human radar. So the way a human radar could work, theoretically, is whenever your iPhone or Android phone or any device that has Wi-Fi, whenever that device is looking for nearby routers to connect to, it's sending out a ping to that router. Now, based on the time it takes for the messages between the router and the phone, based on the timing it takes for those two to make the full communication from send and receive, you can kind of establish a distance, and then when you factor in by adding 2 additional routers or 3 additional routers, now you have a much better reference point for detecting very specific positions of cell phones, basically. It's kind of like that radar sort of from The Dark Knight.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Beautiful, unethical, dangerous. You've turned every cell phone in Gotham into a microphone.
And a high-frequency generator receiver.
You took my sonar concept and applied it to every phone in the city. With half the city feeding you sonar, you can image all of Gotham. This is wrong.
I've got to find this man, Lucius.
At what cost?
The database is null key encrypted. It can only be accessed by one person.
This is too much power for one person.
That's why I gave it to you. Only you can use it.
Spying on 30 million people isn't part of my job description.
This is an audio sample. If he talks within range of any phone in the city, you can triangulate his position.
I'll help you this one time. But consider this my resignation. As long as this machine is at Wayne Enterprises, I won't be.
When you're finished, type in your name.
With Morgan Freeman, except Morgan Freeman used the microphones and I think it was like the microphones that create like some kind of hypersonic sonar, but in reality, another thing you could do is just look for phones that are searching for Wi-Fi network, because your phone's always doing that. And because it's always doing that, and it makes the request to the router, the moment it makes that request to the router, the phone needs to identify itself. It needs to identify what its MAC address is. That's a physical hardware address. Although this is on the iPhones, it's no longer unique, so you can't identify people based on their iPhone MAC address. But it's not just the MAC address. You'll get the host name of the device attempting to connect. You'll get a domain name, or that's basically the host name. But it's going to ask the router, do you have Wi-Fi connections? Router will say yes. And then the router will tell the phone the name of the router. That's how the phone is able to figure out all these names, because even though you're not giving it any permission whatsoever, it's something that is happening while it's in your pocket. Even though it's in your pocket, it is still constantly pinging routers all across its whatever radius, maximum radius of the signal is. So 2 gigahertz goes a little bit farther, or 5 gigahertz signals, which are faster, but they cover less range. So yeah, she's kind of covering that, and this is sort of public knowledge at this point. Like, I kind of feel like she's sounding like Alex Jones a bit when Alex brings up something crazy and something that sounds insane and wild and something that can never exist. But then when you actually read into it, it's like, oh, actually, yeah, this stuff turns out looks like it's existed for a while, and yeah, it's weird. So that's kind of what she's doing here. She's explaining what the police are using, even though these tools that the police use have pretty much been established public knowledge for a long time now. You just have to be tech savvy to understand what that means. Because if you figured this out 15 years ago and you have no idea what a Wi-Fi network is, and you've never used a computer before, like this woman here, most likely her first computer was an iMac, and ever since the tablets and mobile phones came out, she's just been all mobile. So she has no understanding, no background knowledge of how the police use your phone against you. And she's kind of already demonstrated that here. She's showing her ignorance of this long existing concept that's, if you go to OpenWRT, you can download a router and kind of get the source code and have all of this set up for you to create your own human radar. So source code's out there. You just have to download it and set it up. That face recognition for cell phone technology, and that there is bulk collection of internet browsing history. Specific authority is the department using. Yeah, your ISP has all of your browsing history, unless you're using a VPN or, so they'll get your browsing history, but they won't be able to really intercept what you're posting on Facebook, because that uses HTTPS encryption. So they won't really know that, but they can still set up a man-in-the-middle attack to decrypt your HTTPS certificate, because this is your ISP. They have a lot of power over you. They're the ones that physically have plugged you into the internet network.
Or these surveillance tools.
I really can't speak to those instances if they in fact occurred. I'm glad to go and try to determine what you're talking about.
Well, actually, I'm asking about authority, not the details.
Well, I think most of our cyber activities are conducted by the FBI under their law enforcement powers to detect and prevent crime, federal crime.
I think the American public should know that this surveillance technique isn't just about the people in front of the courthouse. If a husband and wife call each other and one of the spouses has a cell phone that's within range of one of these technologies, not only the location, but the actual content of that couple's conversation can be scooped up using this technology. So this really isn't just about the demonstrating. This is about the privacy of all Americans, and it's all being violated.
Yes, it's weird. She started with the National Guard leading to the behavior of the violence. So we start with the National Guard Guard and the National Guard's mere presence is leading to the violent behaviors of the protesters. We started there. Now we're getting into privacy. Like, what? I mean, does she have ADHD or something? Like, this is... Alright, whatever.
The president's political purposes of trying to create a scene, create a reason, divert attention from the COVID failure. I think it's really very unfortunate and a disservice to the American people. Mr. Chairman, my time has expired. So
Point of order.
The gentlelady yields back.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Real quick.
Gentleman will state his point of order.
Could you ask those members who choose not to come to work to silence their cell phones on the video because it's distracting to what we're doing here today?
That is not a point of order.
It's kind of funny.
I now recognize Mr. Chapman.
Mr. Attorney General, would it be accurate to say that it's this administration's responsibility and of course you're part of the administration?
Thanks for watching. Please share this video if you found it interesting. Thanks again. Goodbye. Please share this video if you found it interesting. Thanks again. Goodbye.